Hey, this is Juniversa. I'm your host of Serving Up Comics, and today we're going to be talking about Creature Commandos, a show on HBO Max. It's the soft launch of, I guess, the DCU is the correct name from James Gunn.
hmm
They took out the E, but I'm joined today by an old colleague of mine. He has a great YouTube channel. Welcome to the show again. Yeah, again.
Yeah.
And welcome to the show, Eric Milzarski.
Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Eric Milzarski, also known as on YouTube Eric the Mage.
Hmm.
And on my YouTube channel, I talk about all things comic books. I create video essays, I do listicles, I do shorts, and I try to seek to bridge the gap between like the my all my comic book knowledge that I've been trying to, just spew on to people completely unprompted.
Yeah.
And I finally have my outlet to be able to talk to everybody to be like I have my audience who like actually wants to hear about all the weird things like when Captain America turned into a werewolf and how that's never going to end up in the MCU. I can say
Um,
that on my YouTube channel and people will
hmm
listen.
hmm Yeah, I know. I love the channel. You guys have some really great videos and content.
Thank
And
you.
very like poignant topics as well. For some of the videos, like why Batman doesn't kill, things like that. And talking about like deep cuts. So yeah, I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah, all across my channel I have many different like very interesting things that I like to think people are interested in. Um, like, I rebut, that how every superhero needs to be dark and edgy and gritty, and like that's okay if we see Superman just out there being a good guy.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like I also go through like the history of like that weird time period when like the X-Men rights were still like
Hmm.
at Fox, but then Disney owned the rights to the comic books and the toys and like how everything got buried. That was
Yeah.
an awkward time period for everybody.
It was weird. Yeah, no, I love that video because it's like, it's not like a conspiracy that they're trying to like undermine the
Oh
X-Men or the
no,
Fantastic Four. Like it's out in the open.
it was very obvious.
Hmm. Yeah. So yeah, no, definitely if anyone hasn't checked that out, please do. Eric the Mage on YouTube
Thank you. With a little comma in there because,
with a comment.
I like to be interesting about it. I don't
Hmm.
know. It separates my channel because I have a
Yeah,
comma. I haven't
there you
seen that
go.
too many times on other YouTube channels.
No, no, I don't think so. Um, and just going off of that, we love comics. Is there any comic book that you're reading before we start going into this full
Ooh.
discussion? Yeah.
Aliens versus Avengers is
Oh.
currently my favorite read. It's just so out there. Um,
Hmm.
House by the Sea and House by the like in its sequel series House by the Lake are also really good. A nice like horror from Vertigo.
Nice. Yeah, good to support indie
Um,
comics too.
of course.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, they just relaunched a red line or a red label imprint of Werewolf by Night.
Oh, okay.
Um, and another one for Wolverine. I haven't read them yet. They're both sitting on my gonna read soon pile. But
Yeah, is that the one with Greg Capullo as well?
yes,
Oh,
yes
okay,
it is.
nice. Yeah, I want to check that out eventually. Even though I guess it's not in continuity or something, or
No, I don't think it is.
okay, well, who
I think they
cares?
want to try to keep, well, yeah, try to keep Werewolf by Night's image squeaky clean. Okay.
I guess so, yeah. Yeah. Some good, yeah, no, those are I've heard nothing but good things. So if you're
Yeah.
if you're buying it, then I'll have to check it out like in trade or something eventually. Yeah.
hmm
But yeah, I guess just going right into it, talking a little bit about the backstory for the Creature Commandos. Kind of gave
Yeah.
you some homework, but that's like your forte with
Oh
some
no.
some of the back issues. But who are the Creature Commandos? Because I don't think, well, I knew who they were, but I don't think a lot of general audience members even knew these characters.
Oh boy. So I just have to one say thank you to James Gunn for making the Creature Commandos like the television show. because he made it just as like for the audience of just himself, me, and I think my dad are like the only people who in the world who are genuinely thrilled for a Creature Commandos
Hmm.
series. But I actually am.
Hmm.
So to properly put the Creature Commandos in context, this actually goes back way further than the initial team. It really begins with like the birth of the war comics as an entire genre. And if you really want to start it, it begins with Our Army at War, where it was written by Robert Kanigher and Joe Kubert, or
Hmm.
with art by Joe Kubert, and it followed the stories of like just soldiers in World War II. And like it's like you put those stories like right up next to, Batman and Superman playing baseball at the time.
Yeah,
Well, I think
because
they had that as a cover, but they never actually played baseball. But
yeah, and these are like in the 50s, 60s. That's correct.
yes.
Okay.
This is yeah, this is in the one moment. Let me actually double check
Oh
the
yeah, yeah.
first.
Fact checking live. Unlike like the actual White House, we fact check. Yeah.
Yeah, right. 1952. Oh, yeah, 1952 was the very first appearance of Our Army at War. Right after World War II, with like veterans finally coming into, yeah, with Carmine Infantino and Joe Giella, like creating the first issue. Well, doing the artwork for the first issue. And it followed like Sergeant Rock. It
Hmm.
followed like where he would just be a soldier and
Yeah.
he could be put up on the same level as like Batman and Superman. And that very much resonated with the audience at the time.
Right.
And where like the other superhero stories would start getting more ridiculous and silly, war comics still had their audience.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like I think everybody knows this at this point, but after World War II, the comic book industry started to slide downhill and
Hmm.
very fast.
It's like Frederick Worthman as well, doing the like investigation into the comic book industry. Starts
Hmm.
around there. Or just also like a lot of like mistrust or people like not understanding the medium, I would say as well.
Yeah, because everybody always assumed like, oh, it's just cheap paper you can buy for 10 cents. Oh,
Hmm.
that's children's stuff. Like
Right.
only kids want to read, this story about Batman being silly with
Hmm.
his like
Zebra
his
costume.
yeah, all the Aquaman stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but
Uh,
yeah, needless to say, the Golden Age died very quietly.
yeah.
And but the thing that kept the comic book industry afloat was like all the other non-superhero related titles, like war comics, like
Romance.
with the romance comics, with
Hmm.
the comedy stuff. Like everybody sleeps on Archie, but Archie saved the comic book
It
industry.
did, yeah. People love Archie. I think my grandma
Oh
read
yeah.
Archie too. So it's like, you know,
And now
um,
pe- and now they
mhm.
have Riverdale. I think that
it
show ended.
it ended,
But
yeah. They got
yeah.
superpowers, so it's like came full circle.
All it all completes itself.
Yeah.
But but speaking of which, of like that actually ties in perfectly because like as the war comics went on with Our Army at War,
Hmm.
eventually you started getting like a bit more like you can only tell the same war story over and over again. Where like
Right.
you'd have like you'd follow Sergeant Rock, but then the next issue you can follow, somebody else from Easy Company.
Hmm.
But then you can follow like, all right, we're gonna go from the European theater to the Pacific theater. Okay, we've told this story. Let's spice things up a little bit.
Yeah.
And with that, we actually start moving into Weird Wars,
Mm.
where it was like,
Haunted
okay,
tank.
yeah, now we fight a haunted tank. Now we fight like I'm just saying, like Call of Duty thought they were special with Nazi zombies, but that was a thing in Weird Wars #1.
Yeah.
And like just they could have more fun with that because at that time too the comics code authority was also like starting to be lifted, so now you can start moving into horror as it like and start mixing that into your stories,
Mhm.
and that's what helps set Weird Wars like so different from everything else.
Yeah. I was gonna say not to backtrack a little bit, but a lot of the writers, because he pointed it out in the video, a lot of the writers and artists were like servicemen as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, especially with war comics. like one of the things that actually helped like keep them afloat and like actually start being like, good stories that like an adult would actually want to pick up this 10-cent piece of paper. It's because there were actual war veterans telling their stories.
Mhm.
Like where because you could have like Sergeant Rock do like going out and like watching a friend of his die. That's probably an actual writer writing his story of like, here's how I felt when I lost my friend in Iwo Jima.
Mhm.
And like with especially with Joe Kubert, one of the greatest comic book artists of all time, he also served in the Korean War. Granted, he was writing for World War II, but like he has firsthand knowledge of like what it feels like to, watch like to hide in a foxhole while everything around you blows up and everyone you know is getting blown up. And he beautifully illustrates that onto the page, which
Yeah, that.
brings us
Mhm.
which then brings us into Weird War because he has that experience of like he still holds on to like all the here like what war truly is when he starts to like making things a bit more crazy in Weird Wars. It still has that heart of like, sure, it's, these are a bunch of soldiers in World War II, and their stories are still being told. Let's have fun with it. Now they're fighting Nazi zombies. Now they're fighting
Yeah,
skeletons. Now they're fighting vampires.
yeah.
Now they're fighting a ghost tank.
I think it's earned, and
It
like,
is.
yeah. I was gonna say, I think like Sergeant Rock is probably I think my favorite character of that era too. Like he's so
Yes.
like because it's like there's few comic book characters where it's like there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And for
Hmm.
like Sergeant Rock, even though they changed it a couple times, like in current continuity, I think it's like he dies on the last day of World War II from like the last bullet, like
Hmm.
saving someone from like a enemy soldier, and it's like, I think that's such a rich character, and I was so good. I was so like it was just like it wasn't like I'm not a big like Easter egg person, but it was just really nice to see like Sergeant Rock just like pop up for like an episode in Creature
Yeah.
Commandos. Yeah, showing he
Uh,
exists, I guess, in this universe.
yeah, and I mean, I still believe that they've already said that they're gonna do a Sergeant Rock film, starring Daniel Craig, I
Yeah.
believe. Yeah,
Yeah.
this starring Daniel Craig, which is gonna break its first rule of the DCU. Like, don't get me wrong, super
Oh.
happy and super excited for Sergeant Rock.
Hmm.
Daniel Craig, an amazing actor.
Yeah.
But wasn't one of the first things that James Gunn said with his universe is that all of the actors are going to cross over between all the different platforms?
Yeah.
The cartoon voices are going to be the same as the live action voices, who are going to be the exact same as in the video games. Daniel Craig didn't voice Sergeant Rock.
Right.
So either it's going to be a Sergeant Rock, like, it's like either it's just going to be a weird, like, hope nobody notices it kind of a mistake
Hmm.
and it's like, oh, we'll fix it later on, and
Yeah.
later on it'll be the thing. Just don't worry about this one single moment. Or Sergeant Rock isn't going to be like the film isn't going to be set in World War II, and James
Right.
Gunn can be a man of his word.
Yeah, I don't know. It could be like Elseworlds or whatever. I guess
Yeah.
that's still a thing. Like, 'cause it's like I feel like there's been so many like videos or people online like kind of like questioning some of the James Gunn sort of continuity thing. And it's like I think my general rule of thumb, it's like unless he says something's in continuity, then it's not. And then if he says it is, then it is. So, you know.
I, I think at this point too, James Gunn has earned enough of like fan trust for him just to say, yeah, don't worry about it. It's fine.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Shut up, nerds.
Yeah. Kind of going off of that, why Creature Commandos, so it's like GI Robot, Weasel, um, Rick Flag Senior. We finally I guess he had Rick Flag Jr. at 18, so
Yes.
continuity
Eh,
wise, that's fine. Sure.
that's fine.
Yeah. Frankenstein and then the Bride of Frankenstein, Lotus Insulin, GI Robot,
Dr. Phosphorus and Nina
Phosphorus.
Mazursky.
Yep. Why adapt these characters, do you think? Because they're like so odd, but he always chooses like the oddest ones and then makes them like so compelling.
He does. So the actual cast of the Creature Commandos television show, it's not the exact same as in the comic books. in any of the iterations, because we have the Creature Commandos from World War II. We have the Creature Commandos from the New 52 reboot, and we
Mhm.
have the newest iteration of Creature Commandos that's just been released recently. And none of this cast is actually following the same trajectory, or the lineup is different. Like,
Mm.
yes, like if you always go through, there always is a Frankenstein, but that's Lucky, not like Eric Frankenstein or Bride of Frankenstein. And like there is always a GI robot as well later
Yeah.
on when he actually joins the team, but there's also different GI robots. Like GI robot dies and gets destroyed, as we see in the show. It's like that happens. He's just a robot. He'll
Yeah.
be back. Don't worry.
He's fine.
I think they're up to like Jake 5 is like
Yeah.
the newest one. And
If
it's
you
like,
say
yeah,
so. But yeah, you also you brought some comics too, if anyone's watching this on YouTube.
I did.
Hmm.
I have like just to prove that I actually am a fan of Creature Commandos. I have a number one issue. Well, it's not the number one. It's actually Weird Wars number 93, which is actually the first appearance of the Creature Commandos as a team. I don't have Weird Wars number 101. I used to back in the day, but you know how times work.
Hmm.
Which is actually the very first appearance, which was the first appearance of GI Robot, but it's also at the point where it's just a team. Like the team is there in Weird Wars, but they're not actually like the main focus yet.
Hmm.
But I do have 115, which is actually the first time GI Robot does appear with the Creature Commandos.
Oh, look at that. Love it.
I have plenty more issues, and I have into the
Oh,
reboots, the
nice.
rebooted versions. I have the new 52, where it was actually Star Spangled War stories with G.I. Zombie, and of course, the newest iteration. Another weird thing that I actually have noticed, especially with the newer versions of Creature Commandos, is Medusa. Like,
Mm,
and we didn't see any Medusa. We might in season two.
maybe.
Holding out hope.
Yeah. I was gonna say that's very close to the what's the Marvel version of that? It's like for Creature Commandos.
Ooh, Legion of Monsters.
Legion of Monsters, that's right.
Or actually, so I'll hold up. I'll actually hold
Okay.
off on that for
We'll
like
hold
the
up.
later on.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we get to the why James Gunn is adapting these specific characters. Like,
Hmm.
actually, no, that's like right next. Yeah, right after for Creature Commandos. But
Yeah,
yeah,
what
for the creature. Oh, sorry. Yeah, for like the Creature Commandos, like they've always been a group of monsters. So yeah, they've always had the Frankenstein. They've always had, a werewolf. They've always had a robot. They've always had, a Medusa.
yeah.
And that also follows into the television show where we have, a robot, we have a flaming skeleton, we have two different versions of a Frankenstein. We have a weird weasel who's totally sure he can fit the role of a werewolf.
Yeah.
We have Nina, who's actually like seen as a mermaid, but like kind of isn't, but she looks more like the creature from the Black Lagoon, so hey, it works.
Yeah, no, no, I mean they're like really interesting. I love like how they like rub up against each other and just kind of like have all this conflict and everything. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They're like I think he'll with James Gunn just picks characters that you wouldn't think that like you would have like an emotional response to, and then you end up like being attached to them. And maybe like
Yeah,
they're the
like
weird yeah.
oh sorry. I was just saying, yeah.
Yeah, maybe they're the weirdest characters yet, I think. Maybe.
Oh yeah, they to be honest, Weasel. I is just a like you just see him the entire time just like licking himself, and it's just a weasel.
Hmm.
And yet he gets a backstory episode, and it's the most heartbreaking thing ever. And now we're feeling sorry for this weasel that like we just saw 2 episodes ago pee all over a plane.
Yeah. And it's like also too, like, they clarify like his backstory. He didn't kill any children, I guess, and he was trying to save them. So it's like really, I don't know, gives him like a lot more depth and everything too.
Hmm.
Yeah. Also brings us to my favorite character, because you were talking about this off camera. in our Discord. GI Robot, my favorite character of the whole show. You're saying best
Yes.
representation of like AI or robots, right?
He is because like everyone has this idea of like how robots are, and it's mostly interpreted by how pop culture always like has robots. Like Bender from Futurama, sure, he's a robot and he can do like funny robot stuff, but let's be honest, the way that Bender in Futurama acts is more like a human being than, a smartphone.
Hmm.
And like this like goes through everything. Like Optimus Prime, is he a robot? Sure, he looks like one. He's got the body of a robot, but he
Yeah.
actually has a heart. He actually has a soul. And like if you keep going down like, true AI versus like, well, yeah, if you like go down the list from like is actually like a human but, with a robot body and just like work your way down to like Baymax would be I guess like the only other like
Hmm.
robot who's a robot like and oh I love that film and it's like if you notice like all the little details where it's like everyone always thinks like oh Baymax is like oh he's just saying something sweet from the heart and it's like no he's being completely literal like oh your brother is here it's like he's not pointing to his heart he's pointing to a computer chip.
That's right. Yeah. No. And it's like, I guess, the way a robot would think is very literal. And it's like it has a program, a
Yeah,
directive, and it just does that. And that's GI Robot, where it's like he just wants to kill Nazis.
he's only program like GI Robot is only programmed for one thing. And that, well, two things actually.
Hmm.
Like if you notice, like throughout the entire time, GI Robot is programmed for two things: killing Nazis and being friends with people who kill Nazis.
Hmm.
And that's it. Like everyone wants to put like all this complexity to him, and like that's even part of his episode where he gets his backstory. It's he's just a robot. He's just a tool.
Hmm.
He's no different from the gun that's, being fired. Like yeah, fuck Nazis. Everyone hates Nazis.
Yeah.
And if you
Very, very timely. Very timely.
very timely.
Ugh.
And like, yeah, he can kill all the Nazis and we'll enjoy it. And we'll see all the human characters around him, like enjoying, like, yeah, fuck them up. They deserve that shit. And he's just a robot. He doesn't really know or care because he's just a robot.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
everyone tries to like put on like oh like yeah like later on after the war like bringing him up in front of the audience and it's like yeah no he's still just programmed to kill Nazis and like if
Mhm.
you're acting suspiciously like a Nazi
Mhm.
it might interpret you as one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then like later on in the episode when like everyone like yeah he's like deprogrammed and like he's just turned off like and then like eventually he gets bought by like that weird really creepy like his story like yeah he gets bought by that very creepy like pseudo historian who amateur yeah yeah he gets later on he gets like bought out by the amateur historian and like yeah, very, very much red flags going off everywhere. Like
Hmm. Voiced by
we,
Michael Rooker too.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like he has this nice sweet moment where it's like, oh, here, like come play with my kitties, like let's watch TV. Yeah, J.I. Robot's not really reacting because he's just a robot. Like he's
Yeah.
not going to take in like all that friendship and like the warmth, which is yeah, the most obvious thing of like, oh, and they bring him to a neo-Nazi rally. What
Just
did
goes
you
to town.
expect?
Goes to town. It's like, and
Like
that's, yeah.
yeah, and I remember seeing on like Twitter, like people were saying like, oh, this is so heartbreaking. GI Robot finally had a friend and let the political differences like get between
Uh,
them. And like, you first of all, you can not be friends with neo-Nazis, and that's perfectly fucking cool.
yeah, exactly.
And like, yeah, no, it's he doesn't feel anything. It's again, he's just a robot. He's just a tool. He sees the neo-Nazi symbols. Time to die.
And it's like, yeah, I also love that too, like about the character where it's like, he goes to jail for that and then he waits like something, maybe it could be like 20, 30 years. And up until we catch up to him in the episode, like he hasn't fulfilled his programming. But the
Yeah.
moment where it's like Rick Flag tells him, like, oh, yeah, those are Nazis, it's like the happiest he's been in like
Are
40
are
years. And he's
are
fine with just waiting till that moment, too.
are these Nazis? Yes, GI Robot, they're Nazis.
So good.
Okay.
I love that whole sequence, too. Like, and then, yeah, just seeing him and like in jail. And then I love also just like that,
Yeah.
like,
What's jail gonna do to a robot?
yeah. Also love that like it's just like a really quick scene, but it's like he was there on the was it like he's in the background of that like historic photo where it's like the sailor kisses the lady and he's just like
Yeah.
waving. He's just like waving in the background.
Yeah, the Times Square kiss, the victory
Mhm.
kiss.
Yeah. He's just
Yeah.
there chilling. I was like, you know,
Yeah. And then the other prime directive of GI Robot is to be friends with anyone who's a Nazi. So I also noticed it with this with Gina or with Nina. Yeah, I also noticed this with Nina. As soon as like they first meet, like he asks her like, "Would you like to kill Nazis together?" And she's the only one who responds of course. Yeah, no, fuck Nazis. Yeah, sure. Like if you want to go kill them, I'll join you."
yeah.
And that's the moment where like the pact is formed.
Hmm.
And like later on throughout the next few episodes, he doesn't care if anyone else is in danger because he hasn't formed that pact of this person is willing to fight Nazis with me.
Hmm.
So he only cares about Nina.
Yeah. Well, that's like the thing like Will Magnus asks him when he has him in his lab. It's like, well, what would you do hypothetically if you did? And he's like, well, I'd love to go back with my boys in easy company to kill Nazis.
Because they agreed to his pact
Hmm.
of like, let's go fuck Nazi shit up.
Yeah, that's such a good character. But yeah, no,
Oh, so beautiful.
yeah, and it's like he's just like a simple character too. Yeah, it's just love him. I was gonna say nice cameo too by Will Magnus.
Yeah.
Was not expecting that, but very good to see. We'll talk cameos later. How this act is like an introduction to this new DC universe because besides the Superman trailer, this is technically like the first look at this universe, and it's like I don't know, we said like soft launch almost of this
Yeah.
um of this new universe, which rebooted the DCEU. Because that I really appreciated just they just kind of like threw you in here. Um, it's kind of just like the gist that I get is this is just like the comics, more or less.
Hmm.
Like everything you read in the comics, more or less all happened in terms of like, there was like a Themyscira or Sergeant Rock existed or like Will Magnus existed. There's a Gorilla City. Like this is all within this realm. And he's kind of just like tipping you off where it's like this universe is just we're not like beholden to making it like ultra realistic or gritty. It's just it's a comic.
Yeah. And that's honestly what we kind of like. I don't mind like all the the gritty realism that we'll see like in so many other adaptations of comic book movies, but it it is a comic book. Like the source material is going to be silly. The source
Mhm.
material is going to be goofy as hell.
Yeah. Well,
Like
it's
we
all
need.
yeah. It's also
Oh,
like
sorry.
The Grant Morrison quote where it's like, it's like what people keep asking. It's like, how could there be a Batman? Or like, how old is he? How much training can he do? It's like it's not real. Like any kid could tell you this. This is like that's the reason how it exists. Like it's not real. It's all made up.
The the reason it exists is because I wrote it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's like, for comics, it's like that. I think like that's the beauty where it's like, yeah, there can be a Gorilla City or like a vigilante in like Gotham City. It's all possibilities. So
Yeah, we can have like, aliens from outer space. We can have gorillas. We can have people from Atlantis. We can have billionaires that care about people. Anything is possible in a comic book.
yeah. And that's it's kind of like refreshing too, because it's like I feel like the like how the MCU started, it was kind of like the opposite of like it was very grounded in like reality with like Iron Man and then, the Hulk, and then they're like, okay, how could we make Thor like fit in here? And it kind of like worked backwards between that, or it kind of worked backwards from that. Because it's like, if you would see Iron Man and then skip to like Captain Marvel, And like it's kind of like retconning things too, where it's like, okay, this actually existed before and this existed. Whereas like if you watch like phase one, it's like there's no indication that like a Captain Marvel exists, like Nick Fury had Avengers protocols, that there's like Thanos or like all this like galactic stuff existing all at the same time, you know?
I mean, if you really want to look at like major retcons to how the world works, like Thor 1, Thor even tells Jane, like, oh, magic is science you just don't understand. Like, I'm
Hmm.
not a god, I'm just an alien.
Yeah.
And then it's like a few movies later in the Thor trilogy, it's like, yeah, no, we've got Doctor Strange, magic totally exists. And yeah, no, they're gods. They're hanging out with all the other gods.
Yeah. There was yeah, the whole like God Council and Thor Love and Thunder, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. You know those don't feel like similar movies, but for I guess what we're seeing at the DCU, it's just everything is just there. Like if you want it, it could be there. And then kind of going off of that, like we've seen some cameos. And
Hmm.
we'll go into the show as we were talking about. We saw Batman, Gorilla Grodd. We already talked
Ooh.
about like Sergeant Rock. But it's just cool to just see like even though they're like silhouettes or like just like side characters like a Rupert Thorne, like it's cool to just see like okay, this all exists. Like we don't really know how it's gonna look because it's like it's not ready yet, but just the fact like yeah, it's there, you
Yeah,
know.
we all know Calendar Man's just gonna sit in jail. All right, that's fine.
Hmm.
And it's like, yeah, we don't need to like see like how every last detail of Batman just yet, but we know he's there.
He's there, yeah, he's around. I was gonna say it had like also the deepest cut of I'm gonna like mispronounce this like character's name, but he's like a Doom Patrol villain, and he's a dinosaur vegetable mineral man. Is that right?
Yes.
Because
That
it's like that's this like I love that character, and just like he's a comic book character. He's like a weird villain. Like, that's kind of like the dumbest character ever.
animal, vegetable, mineral man.
Yeah, that's such a stupid character, but it's cool.
It
He just
works.
pops up. Yeah, it
Like
works. Yeah.
they're not gonna give, animal, vegetable, mineral man like his own like HBO Max
No.
like solo
God.
series, but just as a quick like, yep, he's there. Like
Yeah.
that works.
Yeah.
Like we don't need to see like, Kongrilla, who also shows up in the prison, like get his full backstory. No, we just see, he's a super smart gorilla's in prison. Like, and that's
Yeah.
fine. That's all we needed.
Yeah. No, it's cool. And it's like it's just, they're also like fun too, because it's like I feel with some like cameos or just like Marvel cameos lately, or DC cameos before, where it's like really just takes away from like what you're watching. Like the movie
Hmm.
stops, shows you like, okay, here's a Valkyrie or something. But this is just like, it's Batman. And he's there for
Yeah.
like a second.
If you need to like, take time to go Google who he is, like, sorry, that's too long. Like
Yeah.
Marvel's been, over glorifying like all their stuff. Like, yeah, we saw it in Spider-Man, how it's just like, and now we get another Spider-Man. And like, yeah, they built in like all that time. Like in the movie theater, you would have everyone applauding, but it's just
Yeah.
super awkward if you're just watching at home and you just see like Andrew Garfield just,
Yeah. Well, did you
I'm
read the
here.
yeah, did you read the thing where it's like Charlie Cox was talking about his like experience on Spider-Man Homecoming? And so
Hmm.
they're when they were like blocking the scene with him, and he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna like just hit my mark here and then I'm gonna sit down." They're like, "No, you have to like take a beat or like two beats before you sit down." And he's like, "Why?" And they're like, "Well, this is where the audience is gonna clap and
Yeah.
like cheer, so it's like you need like a second before you start saying dialogue." And it's like
And
if
we couldn't. It makes
yeah,
sense in the theater, but like,
right.
don't you guys just want to like slightly re-edit it for the home release? That's
Yeah.
that's legal. You can do that.
Yeah. Well, it's like, for stuff like that, because it's like, I get these are like giant corporation movies, but it's like, it feels so hollow where it's like, if you're on set, like working, it's like your priority isn't like, okay, we're blocking the scene, we're doing our craft of like directing or acting. It's like, no, we gotta like take into account,
Corporate,
like, yeah,
yeah, corporate has notes.
yeah, corporate has noticed. It's like, we need to take into account like the fans that are going to cheer at this exact second. Or like film the cameo and put it on TikTok instead of like just blocking the scene. Yeah, that's. I
It's
mean,
weird.
yeah, it's very weird. Like, I still like seeing Daredevil in Homecoming. You're not home, No Way Home, excuse me.
Yes.
But it's like, stuff like that just makes you feel kind of cynical about this whole thing. But yeah.
Yeah. And like honestly, like if it's gonna continue the way James Gunn has it planned out, it's like how we saw like in the alternate future where the princess like murdered everybody.
Hmm.
Like it was just a real quick, like of course you got the big three, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. But then you see like Peacemaker. You would have
Yeah.
assumed like Peacemaker's there because, James Gunn and all. But then we get, like Hawk Girl and Mr. Terrific because we know like, oh, they're gonna appear in the Superman
Hmm.
film. That's
Yeah.
fine. But then, we get like Blue Beetle, Booster Gold. Like
Yeah. He said,
I think Starfire shows up even.
I think so. Yeah. Well, he said Blue Beetle's in continuity, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. I believe he said like they couldn't have him in there. So I really like that movie. Of all the duds of 2023 of like DC movies, like Blue Beetle was probably the best movie, and no one
It
saw it.
it had no reason, like no right to be as good as it was.
Yeah.
And oh, so good.
Yeah.
Because again, it's just a good story.
Hmm.
Like it like had like something to say, like, like, hey guys, like families are strong sticking together.
Yeah.
And like that's all you needed. And
Yeah.
that's
No,
a good film.
that's how you tell a story because it's like I can't tell you what like Shazam was about or
Yeah.
Aquaman 2, like what the message of that movie was. But yeah.
Yeah, because like every film, like if you really break it down, like if you say like the writer and director, like you have a soapbox and the entire world can listen to you for like one sentence. What do you want to say to the world with your film? And it's like, I don't know, I want to make money.
Yeah.
Here's cameos.
Yeah, these cameos have Wonder Woman show up, but it's like she's clearly green screened in and she wasn't
Yeah.
there on set with people, you know? But yeah,
Never shows up in a wide shot.
she's never in a wide shot, just some close-ups. Yeah, that year had like two Wonder Woman cameos. She was in the
Yeah.
Flash too. And it's like the same scene. She's just there. Yeah, I gotta do that thing. She's recasted. We're gonna see Jason Momoa as Lobo, so that's interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am not hating that.
Yeah, but it's like it's funny. I just saw all the. I think I showed you a meme, but it's like of all the DC EU actors, it's like The Rock. He's like, "Get out, Henry Cavill, out." Jason Momoa is like, "All right, I'm gonna keep you
You're
around.
saying it.
You're staying in, but you're Lobo now," which is like, oh, that's cool, I guess.
He
Like,
was
I
basically
mean,
playing Lobo anyways.
yeah, I mean, yeah, he wasn't very Aquaman-y, which is like fine,
Which
you know.
it's fine.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not going to be a huge Aquaman hater
yeah,
because like everyone always assumes like Aquaman is like the same version we saw in the like Super Friends,
hmm.
but like every
Talks to
superhero was
fish.
awkward in that time period.
Yeah, it's just he just has like kind of I guess like a weird power, to
Yeah,
regular people. Just talks to fish. But it's like he does cool things too. He does
he
cool things.
does. He just never had that like redeeming moment.
No.
Like the 60s, we had like super awkward like Batman running with a bomb carrying shark repellent in his
Hmm.
helicopter. And like Batman got redeemed with, the Tim Burton films, and then
Yeah.
definitely redeemed with the Christopher Nolan films. So nobody
Hmm.
assumes like the Adam West Batman's that Batman.
Yeah.
But Aquaman never got that treatment, so everyone just
No.
assumes
He's
he's the talk to
goofy.
fish guy.
Yeah.
So we needed Jason Momoa to just like Lobo the fuck out of him.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. It's a good,
Okay,
it's adaptation. Yeah.
you saved the character. Congratulations. We'll give you one that we all kind of knew he wanted to play anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now he gets to play it. But yeah, with the episodes, you know, I, the story too, I was just gonna kind of change gears here. It was really cool just seeing it like I mean, it's kind of like Suicide Squad where it's just they're on a mission, complications that
Yeah.
happen um to them with like Waller and everything. And yeah, I don't know, like it was fun, like, for the show, like it's not like Fallout or Last of Us. It's just,
Yeah.
I think it was like just a fun, kind of goofy show, and maybe that's what like people needed to see
Yeah.
from this universe because I think DC, because they didn't have anything come out last year. 'Cause it's like the last movie year, which was 2023, was probably the worst year for like DC movies or just DC in general, too, I would say.
No, they definitely had Joker too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. They had Joker 2 last year. So the
Oh
last two
God,
years. Yeah. You know what? I don't hate Joker 2. It's like it's just a
I
solid
did.
it, oh, okay. Well, it's a
I
solid all right,
absolutely hated it.
but I could see why people hate it.
Uh, no spoilers, but
Uh-huh.
that ending,
Oh,
the ending was so bad it tried to ruin another great Batman film.
yeah. It's I don't know.
If
They
you've
just
seen it, you know what I mean. I'm
yeah.
sorry.
They just let Todd Phillips just like run astray, it seemed like.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, the show is good. It's just nice to see like a good DC thing too, because it's like I had some other friend on here where he just said it's so hard being a DC fan, because
uh,
it's like
uh,
rooting for like a bad basketball team or something. Like they could be good, but they're just not right now.
hey, I'm a Pistons fan. I know that analogy too well.
Yeah, exactly. It's following like a bad team, but I think they might do well next year, which is like this
Yeah,
this could be our year, which we'll see with Superman.
we
Everything
will.
is yeah, everything's sane. People are interested. Like all the trailers they keep saying are doing really well.
I'm seated. I'm down.
Yeah. Um,
And
yeah,
yeah, I honestly think that like everything that he has, Creature Commandos was the best place to start. It's very low stakes. Like if you miss Creature Commandos, you're not missing much.
yeah,
Like as much as I love the series, as much as I enjoyed it, it's if you missed it, you're gonna be all right. Like you don't need to know the backstory of Dr. Phosphorus.
no.
Like
It's nice.
you can just go into Superman. But if like you truly love these characters, there's something for you. If you've got, a free weekend or, just want to watch something for like 30 minutes, like here and there, yeah, it's there. Watch it. It's good.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
think you could watch like the whole season like in one afternoon too.
yeah. And I mean, to be honest, like the show isn't without its flaws. Like I as much as I want to, like give James Gunn like all the respect and all the admiration in the world, there's some flaws in the series.
Yeah.
Like it ends very abruptly.
Right.
It just like you feel like things aren't going to keep moving, and it's like, oh wow, like the stakes just got raised even higher.
It just ends.
Oh, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like for that last episode, I thought there was one more, and then it
Yeah,
just ended. So that was yeah, it ends abruptly. I was gonna say like we probably didn't need that like Rick Flag sex scene either.
yeah.
It's kind of weird. And then he like
Uh,
posted the like recording session online. I'm like, okay, this is a little weird, but you know,
I'm
was
not gonna judge anyone, like if you're in a relationship with age
uh
gaps,
sure
but when we know like this character is supposed to be like at least
50?
like 50, like pushing 60s,
Yeah.
and it's like we don't need to be reminded like that she's like just turned 19 or something.
Yeah. And she just really liked older men.
Yeah,
Yeah. A little weird. A little weird. So that's
not
some
gonna
mhm,
judge for anyone in the audience, but
right. Some flaws for sure.
some flaws.
Yeah. But yeah, overall, good show, I think. Definitely check it out. I think like even for like if you don't know anything about DC, maybe it's a good starting point. It just throws you in there. And it's like explaining stuff like what Themyscira is or whatever. And it's like that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. And I mean, also, I think that it's like it was great that we just started as is because like, yeah, we know Themyscira already. Like everybody's like, at least if you've seen the Wonder Woman films, like, okay, you can quickly pick up like, oh, it's just an island of only women who are all warriors. Cool, got it. Like we can just jump into that. We also don't need to see, Martha Wayne's like
Yeah.
pearls getting broken while she's
Again,
being shot in Crime Alley. How many times have we seen that so far? Like,
it's like Batman Forever. No, wait, they don't show it in Batman. So it's like Batman Forever, Batman Begins, animated series,
the Gotham TV
BVS,
show,
Gotham.
BVS.
It's
Like,
like at least 10 times.
we've seen her pearls break enough. We're
Yeah.
done with that, guys.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we get it. Like, and that's not even the actual origin of Batman. Like, that's not like that's, the very, very start. but we don't see, him like actually training to become Batman. We don't see him like learning to become the greatest detective, greatest ninja, greatest everything. It's just, well, we did it in Batman Begins, but then it's just like everything else is just like, oh yeah, his parents get shot in Crime Alley and immediately he's
Batman.
Batman.
Yeah.
That's all it took.
Hmm. Yeah, seen that
And
enough.
yeah, and yeah, that's the best thing about Creature Commandos is like you don't need it. Just we're there.
Yeah.
Like everyone knows it enough times.
Hmm. And the flashbacks that they have, it's just there's like a point to it in the story too. So yeah.
Yeah. And but yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, why these characters? But yeah, like and honestly, I think the like one of the funniest things, like with like the way that like James Gunn has been using these characters and especially to get them out first, I think that's a timely thing because like if you look at the back and forth between Marvel and DC, like there's always been a that rivalry where like we have the Wonder Woman film, but oh, Marvel's gonna try to jump in with, their first what female-led superhero film with Captain Marvel too.
Hmm.
And then like there's always that back and forth of like trying to one up each other with the very same characters at the very same time. And that goes like all the way back to the very beginning of everything between the two companies as just the comic books. Honestly, I kind of feel like James Gunn immediately jumped on Creature Commandos before jumping onto any of the other side projects because this screws over Marvel from doing a Midnight Suns.
Oh, your favorite, yeah.
Oh
Your
yeah,
favorite game.
love the game by the way.
I need to
And
play it. I need to play it eventually. Yeah.
because honestly, think about it this way, the way that Marvel Comics or the Marvel's think about it this way, the way that Marvel Studios has been building up their Midnight Suns. We have, Moon Knight, who's basically a mummy. We have, Werewolf by Night, who is a werewolf. We have, Blade, who's the vampire. We
Eventually.
have eventually when that film gets made in 2038.
Yeah.
We have, Man Thing, who's, a giant like bruiser swamp monster. And if I'm being honest, they're probably going to throw like Agatha in there, or they'll throw in Jennifer Kale, as the witch. Who's
Sure.
also tied into Man Thing. And like, I just want to point out there to everybody because I've always saw like everyone saying like, "Oh, Jennifer Kale from Agatha all along." Did you know that she's actually Ghost Rider's cousin? And it's like, that's a retcon actually, and it's like really not important to her character.
Yeah.
The important thing is that she's like best friends with Man Thing, like, and it's always
Mhm.
there. Like that's the more relevant. Okay, and yeah, like then there's Ghost Rider, who is always like crucial to every Midnight Suns.
Mhm.
Eventually, we're gonna get a Ghost Rider like project, like whether it's starring Ryan Gosling or Nicolas Cage or whichever version of the Rider. And now James Gunn sees that it's like, oh, you're building an entire team full of like all these just like monsters who are actually good. Huh. Let me see if I can do it first.
Yeah. Swipes in.
Just jump in and just like take it like, oh, you've got monsters. I've got a I've got a mermaid, I've got a Frankenstein, I've got a sort of werewolf, I've got oh, and you want Ghost Rider? Oh, ooh, sorry. We brought in Dr. Phosphorus, who's never been associated with the Creature Commandos or like Project M or any of the other like Agents of Shade. Like, oh, we're
Yeah.
bringing in Dr. Phosphorus because yeah, he's a spooky skeleton with a head on fire. And fun fact to everybody, Dr. Phosphorus was actually created first before Ghost Rider. So I'm just saying, another one of the characters that Marvel steals.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I didn't think of that before, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then just kind of like wrapping up here, any final thoughts on the show?
It's definitely worth checking out. I'm excited for season two. I don't know when we're gonna get that because I think it's gonna be a long time before we get even Peacemaker season two, and like
Yeah.
every other project that's gonna come for the DCU.
Yeah. Yeah. They're taking their time, which is nice because it's like I
Good.
feel, yeah, the quality of some of these movies that we've seen have not been good.
But here's the thing though, if we wait too long, audiences are gonna stop caring, and we definitely need more than 7 episodes.
Right.
Was it 7 episodes? Like, yeah,
Yeah,
seven.
it was seven.
Yeah, we definitely need more than 7 episodes if we're gonna have to wait like 4 or 5 years. Because like it doesn't take that long to make 7 episodes of a series. Because like television's been going down, like whittling down the episode count for way too long, and
Yeah.
the gap between season is are taking like even longer. Like if Creature Commandos, like if we come to like 4 or 5 years from now, like we're gonna need more than 7 episodes of just
Hmm.
like a very quick weekend watch.
Yeah.
Or eh,
Yeah. Oh, hopefully, yeah, we get it sooner rather than later. But yeah, we'll
mhm.
see. But yeah, that's kind of a good note to end on because it's like I'm excited for this universe,
I'm
and
excited.
mhm, this was a great introduction, I think.
Yeah. It's a good first step. If you're excited, you want to see it, hell yeah. If you love James Gunn, it is very James Gunn. This is
Yeah.
more James Gunn than we've gotten in such a long time,
Yeah. For obvious reasons. For
for
obvious
obvious
reasons.
reasons.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you miss it, it's not the end of the world.
Hmm. Yeah. I agree with that. But yeah, Eric, people liked hearing you. Where can they find you at? Any plugs, promotions?
Yeah. I've got my YouTube channel, Eric the Mage. I'm closing in on 5,000 subscribers. Hopefully I can jump that soon.
Hmm.
I have taken a little bit of a break. But I'm gonna be jumping back in very soon. By the time this is out, I should have another video published. First
Sweet.
one in a few months. But yeah, I'm ready to get back into this. Check out my channel. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you guys might like something on there.
Yeah, we'll put a link in the bio of the video.
Thank you.
But yeah, of course. But yeah, Eric, it's always good having you on. You're a great guest and then great historian too on comics. It's always
Thank you.
nice talking to you about it because I remember just talking to you in the office about like just random comic book stuff.
Oh yeah.
Good
It's been a
times.
pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. We'll have to have you back on soon.
Of
Um,
course.
yeah. But yeah, you can find me Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, I don't know anymore. G9892 at the Waffle Press on Instagram, or excuse me, on Twitter, however long that's up.
Yep.
Instagram at the Waffle Press Podcast. We're on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube. Please like, share, subscribe. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We've been professionally unprofessional.